Greetings and welcome to Ramblings. I'm Mayor Kirk Wilson, retired, and this is our fourth in a series of vlogs. Now, the first three, you had just me today, and we've decided that for the next several, we're going to be bringing to you and introducing you to our most recently elected and re-elected county officials, I should point out. And we're going to start with, when I say the oldest, I don't necessarily mean the oldest in age, but the oldest as far as it goes to serving his county, Cumberland County, and the constituents here. And that would be Gary Eichelberger. Gary, I've lost count. How many years have you served? And you have 4 more on top of that.
Well, I was first sworn in 2004.
Okay.
So, and now we just are going to be starting a new 4-year term in January.
And what initially got you interested in county government? And I know we're going way back.
Yeah, that is going way back. It's kind of interesting. I've always had an interest in history and politics and the role of public policy and making change. And ever since I was small, I was always sort of drawn to that. And I studied government and public policy as one of my areas in college. And when I got out, I actually went into the business world and did that for quite a while, learned a lot about operations and management. And at one point, I just decided that I thought county government, which a lot of people don't realize is really a pretty big machine, and the job of the commissioners really is to manage the machinery of county government. I just decided that I thought I could do a pretty good job with that and decided to make a run for that. And out of a pretty decent-sized field, I was successful and found it was as interesting as I could have hoped, and probably a lot more.
One of the things that I've noticed, both as a running mate and also as a resident of the county, you seem to be the one individual more than any that I can remember who has sought to bring a sense of business. You want to see county government operated as a business. I know you've had your ups and you've had your downs. How do you see that going in the coming years, and what do you see as, what can you point to now that you have been successful with, realizing that it wasn't something you did by yourself, but obviously you had the help of other commissioners as well?
Yeah, and we've had, we as a board have had some good successes. You look at Cumberland County government in recent years, we've been the recipient of a significant number of recognitions and even awards for our good budgeting practice. We are AAA bond rated. We're one of only 2 in the state of Pennsylvania, Commonwealth, Pennsylvania, and very limited number nationwide. That's our credit rating. So that speaks somewhat to what we've been doing. We've been able to hold our taxes down. We still have the lowest tax rate, county taxes, in all of South Central Pennsylvania, and actually a lot further than that within the state as well. So we're trying to squeeze more out of the dollars that we have. We're a fast-growing county. We've been the fastest-growing county the last 10 years in Pennsylvania, and we've been able to navigate everything that comes with that, and there's a lot that comes with that.
Well, someone would think, though, being a fast-growing county would bring in faster-growing dollars as far as revenues, so that would be a good thing.
Well, it's really a double-edged sword. It has both effects. I mean, certainly when you have more population, there are more demands on the services that we have, and you can choose to either grow in scale or scope. Those are your only 2 choices. As anybody in management knows. So we know we have more people. We're going to have to grow some of our services in terms of their scale. You know, there's more people going to be calling 911, more people going to need mental health services. Any of these things, you have to be able to provide for a larger number of people that are making the demands on those services. And but then there's scope, and there's a lot of folks who think county government should get into a lot of new things, a lot more things. We've been pretty vigilant about limiting those things and keeping them to a more or less a strategy that we have, so that we manage our growth as a county government. At the same time, we're managing our growth as a county as in place to live. So we've been pretty successful with that over recent years, and we're very proud of the fact we've held the taxes down. We're becoming a big county, but we don't have to become a big county government.
Well, what do you see right now as going into your next term in January? I mean, I've read a number of things, challenges facing the county, but obviously, as a commissioner, you've got one in the back of your mind that's probably going to be the toughest to deal with. What do you see that as we look to 2020?
Yeah, I've been fond of saying that the biggest challenge in front of the county is really just the entire range of issues that falls under the umbrella of growth management, because there's so many things that come with our growing population and the expectations today and the pressures, because the state and the federal government are certainly less flush with cash to provide grants and things than they used to be. The requirements are much more stringent, so it's becoming much harder to manage county government and municipal government. I was a municipal official as well, like you, and so those challenges are there. How do we continue to deliver good services when there's a limit to what we can do in terms of raising taxes and a limit on what other revenues are available to us? So we're going to continue with that. If I had to break it down further, I would say transportation is probably our biggest. We have enormous challenges here with moving all these people around that are here and moving traffic through. We're a distribution hub. Everybody's familiar, I think, with the I-81 and the capacity issues there. And the solution to that is going to be a multi-billion-dollar solution, and that's not coming from the county, obviously. So we're going to do our part to see that has the attention of our state and national officials who have to be willing to address that, and of course they have their challenges as well. So transportation, particularly the I-81 issue, but that is also one of the issues we have very little influence on as commissioners. And we've always tried to, in my time here, we took a very professional planning approach to issues, and we triaged issues not just in terms of what are the things we have to face. It is a matter of what is important, what is urgent in terms of timing, and what are the issues where we can actually have influence. So importance, urgency, and influence are the three lenses we're looking through all the time as we survey the scene in front of us and the range of issues that are coming at us. So to answer your question, transportation is one that's going to have the most impact, but unfortunately it's one where we don't have a great deal of influence when it comes to big infrastructure projects.
How do you see you being received by the other upper levels of government, the State Department of Transportation, transportation officials in Washington, D.C., even neighboring states? How do you feel that you're being received as far as your ideas and your concerns?
I would say, we're actually fairly well positioned. It's just the competition for dollars and an ever-shrinking pool of dollars is going to make that a very steep hill to climb. So we have excellent working relationship here in our county with our congressional folks as well as our state legislative folks. They're facing a lot of challenges and limitations as well. So I think there's a broad recognition that some of these issues, such as I-81, they're unavoidable. You can't sweep it under the rug. You can't pretend it's not there.
Well, they built it. The federal government built I-81.
They did, and of course that was a very different age, and the purposes for which it was intended were probably considerably different than what they ended up with today. I think the originators of our interstate system would be really surprised to see what they have and what the demands on that system are today.
I mean, people would be surprised to know that in your and my lifetime, Interstate 81 was not always here. It's fairly new, in relatively speaking.
I couldn't even tell you what year it originally came through Cumberland County. So
I remember that it was probably the 70s. There was a stretch between Middlesex Township and the river that was not open. It was open everywhere else from the south to the north, except there was that one stretch. And I do remember when that opened. It was in the mid 70s.
Well, I know that we just heard a statistic yesterday, I believe, telling us that something on a scale of, in this corridor that Cumberland County is part of, from the state line up through, I believe, the Schuylkill County, maybe a little further, through that corridor, we have roughly 12% of the gross domestic product of the country moving through on a regular basis. But we also found from the current numbers that about 36% of the traffic on that roadway are large commercial vehicles, predominantly tractor trailers. So the old standard used to be that 1 in 10 vehicles should be a large over-the-road vehicle of that type. So we're well in excess of that. So you're mixing interstate traffic that is vehicles, including some really small vehicles, and large trucks. It's bound to create safety issues.
Yes, I can see that. What other issues do you foresee coming up in the next 4 years?
I think we're going to see a continuation of a lot of the issues we've seen. Certainly, the growth pressures that we're having, there's still going to be an enormous amount of residential growth, so there's going to be more people here. So local transportation issues, ensuring that we have adequate roadways, that we have alternatives as well. mass transit being among them, and maybe alternative work arrangements, things of that nature. We're going to have to manage how we get people around here. We're going to have to do a better job, or at least an attentive job, to thinking about our natural resources and making sure that they aren't depleted or damaged, degraded by just the huge presence that we have here now of human beings.
A number of years ago, there was a very wise local elected official who was fighting hard for regional rail from Harrisburg up to Carlisle, and unfortunately, he was not successful in that. I just say that as a little dig right there. Personally, we have a population that a homeless population. Yeah. And I look at what's happening on the West Coast and even some places like New York City where it's becoming a problem. Granted, that's not necessarily the county commissioner's responsibility, but with so many social service responsibilities, that if it ever would become a major problem, which I don't think we would call it a major problem yet, I think that might be something that's going to fall in the laps of the commissioners.
Well, this question's been asked a lot because we have seen a spike in the incidents, especially locally, of homelessness and near homelessness. And we do have facilities and institutions that are here that are geared toward that. One of the problems we run into is that the competition for state and federal dollars, federal in particular, is very intense. That competition's heating up because of the rise in homelessness issues elsewhere as well. And we're having a hard time ensuring that we have that flow of dollars so that these institutions can adequately handle the greater need that's going to exist. So, but the commissioners do have some advocacy role in that. We've been active in that. The Housing Authority has some, which is not under direct county government control. It's an independent authority, but we work cooperatively with them. They have quite a range of resources available to them. But there's a lot of attention being focused on this because of the increase. Now, homelessness has a lot of root causes, of course, and we know some of them are addiction issues, mental health issues. So ideally, we should be addressing those issues, the sources of homelessness, as one of our key strategies. And those things also are very dependent on funding sources outside of the county. We need to advocate for those. There's some state laws that should change, such as certain hold harmless clauses that were put in place to keep funding in other areas that used to have the majority population, and that frankly shortchanges areas like ours that are now the population centers or are growing into population centers. So there's some changes in the laws that need to be made, and frankly too, we need to grow our economy. One of the answers to homelessness is income. For people who are able-bodied, there need to be opportunities, and there needs to be affordable housing. So if we can ensure that those opportunities, and one of our major commitments in the last number of years, especially since I've been here, is to promote growth opportunities for the people of the county. And we've been pretty specific with the formation of our Economic Development Corporation. We want to be positioned for the jobs of the future. We want a community where we're not dependent on one or two industries, and where parents can raise their kids here and have a reasonable expectation that their kids don't have to move far, far away to get the kind of jobs that they're trained in.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, as we say, we've run out of time. Appreciate the fact that you took your time to be with us today.
My pleasure.
This is my vlog. It's hard. I'm so used to saying blog that sometimes it's hard to get the word vlog out, and we called it ramblings because I'm good at rambling on. But joining me in the ramble for our next couple of vlogs will be recently elected or re-elected county officials. Today, we had Gary Eichelberger, who is Cumberland County Commissioner. He'll be back for 4 more years. And again, I would like to thank you for joining in, and make sure you stick with us throughout the season. Thank you.